Are you as excited to meet today and looking forward to it as much as I am?
Well, I think so.
Good, good. Before we go ahead and dive in on the all the things we've got to cover, because we've always got like a whole list of, hey, these are the things we have to cover. But what we like to do is make sure that we're covering the things you want to cover. So, what do you have that you'd like to cover today?
Well, I was just thinking over a little bit, and I wasn't sure really that I got anything new to cover really.
Good. That's totally okay. Then we get to just dive in and cover the things we have. So if you have an issue, a challenge, a problem, something that comes up in any area of your life and you want to cover that, just bring that out first thing in the coaching session and we'll address those things first before we dive into our stuff.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So did you get the email yesterday afternoon, evening about the clear communication?
Yeah, but I don't have internet access, so I can't.
No worries. No worries. So on that, what that will do, do you have the ability to print that out at some point?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, or I could have probably have somebody print it out or whatever if that's what you're.
Yeah. If you can get it to where, maybe next week or something, you have that printed out, you can read it beforehand and then come up with any questions and then we can answer questions and go through. We're also working on something specifically for your employees and being able to go ahead and being able to read them more.
Okay.
And so, and then also with customers as well. So that white
Okay.
paper will help. And then the new thing that we're developing, for you as well, that will also help. Do you have the ability to take notes?
Yeah, I can. I
Super.
was actually writing some of this
Good.
stuff down, so
Nice. Okay. So what you can do is draw a horizontal line going from the left to the right. And on the left
okay.
hand side, you'd label that as less assertive.
Okay. Okay.
And then on the right, you label that as more assertive.
Okay.
And then right in the middle of that line, draw a vertical line up and down. Same thing so you have the top and you have the bottom. And so you have four like quadrants. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So on the top, you say more task oriented or focused. And
Okay.
on the bottom, less task focused.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, too, you may know this already. If you don't, if there's if there's any words that I'm using that you don't understand, ask me. Say, Mark, I don't understand that word. It's totally okay. I get it.
Okay.
Hopefully, I won't say, oh, I have no idea what that word means. So on the bottom, it's more people focused. So top is more task focused, bottom is more people focused.
Okay.
On the upper left hand side, well, let's start on the lower left hand side. So you can label that as a one. We'll call it quadrant one personality.
Okay.
And so that's going to be the amiable personality. The people who, if you ask people what the four shapes are, people who choose the ball will tend to go ahead. That's so you can draw a little ball down there. They're less assertive and they're focused on people. This is called the amiable personality.
Okay.
And so the amiable personality, their greatest strengths is their concern, compassion for people.
Okay.
Their weaknesses are their concern, compassion for people.
Yeah.
Our greatest strength will always be our greatest weakness, and our greatest weakness is just our greatest strength misapplied. It's taking a strength and carrying it too far.
Okay.
And so this is going to help you with your employees, but also with your customers too.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we'll teach you today how to identify somebody's personality in 17 seconds or less.
Okay.
So when we ask people which of these four things would cause you the most frustration, people who choose conflict with others, they're going to be the ball typically.
Okay.
So it's
That was
that's the lower left-hand corner.
okay.
They're going to choose the ball. The amiable, it's called the amiable personality. They're going to choose the ball, and they're going to, or they'll choose conflict with others. They don't like conflict with others.
Okay. Now, a conflict with others. You said, if they're how you determine that?
So, well, I'll give you kind of the description of the four
O-
personalities, and then I'll teach you how to identify somebody's personality quickly.
Okay. You just said something right at first. I wasn't quick enough to write everything down. I wasn't sure what that was. It was something with before you'd say with the conflict with people,
So their
but
greatest
that's fine.
strength is their conflict. Their greatest strength is going to be their concern, compassion for people.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's their greatest weakness too. So these kind of
Okay.
people tend not to be honest with people. They don't look at it as lying. They look at it as being nice.
Gotcha. Yeah.
This is like my wife. I'm like, honey, that seems like you're not being honest with people. That doesn't seem like a good Christian thing to do. Oh no, it's very nice, but it's lying. Well, so so she views the world very different than I do. Not bad,
Yeah.
but very different. And so so when we look at, so your personality, you went ahead and chose the ball and then the pyramid. So the upper left-hand side, that's the cube. So that's number 2 quadrant.
Say that's the upper left.
Upper left is the cube, and that's
Okay.
the number 2 quadrant, we're going to call it. Number 3 quadrant, we're going to go down to the lower right, and that's the expressive personality, and that's the wavy line.
That's expressive.
That's expressive. The upper left is called the analytic.
Okay.
And then upper right is the level 4 quadrant, and that's going to be the driver personality, and that's the pyramid.
Okay.
What you chose the ball and the pyramid. So you chose quadrant 1 and quadrant 4.
Okay.
The thing that causes pain for each of the four personalities in quadrant 1, we already mentioned that, is conflict with others. In quadrant 2, what causes pain for the analytic is not being done properly in order.
Okay.
In quadrant 3, the expressive personality, it's boring or not fun. And in quadrant 4, the driver personality, the pyramid, it's out of control. So when somebody chooses the ball in the pyramid like you did, that person is going to be amiable, and their secondary is driver. That shows us that there's a lot of tension that you have. You have a lot of inner conflict. So you don't like when things get out of control, but you don't like when, there's conflict either, and so you have, it's like you're really a nice person, but then you can be very direct.
Yeah. I
My
mean, I
wife
can
is,
see that because
yeah,
what's that?
go ahead.
I was just gonna say because if it does seem to like it wants to get out of control, then I crack down. This is the way it's gonna be.
Right. And then you feel bad because there's conflict.
Yeah.
With me, I don't feel bad. like, like, like you guys are either you're going to control yourself or I will. I'd prefer you do, but if you don't, I will. So it's good that you have conflict because you're more sensitive than I am. You're kind of like a clone between my wife and I. This is good, but it's also bad. So it's good in that you have conflict, you have tension within yourself, but there's times that you're too nice to people, and then there's times you might be, too aggressive with people.
Okay.
Normally, it's probably too nice, I'm guessing.
Good chance.
Yeah. In the main quadrant test, you test out as an expressive, a quadrant 3, and an amiable quadrant 2. And so you're very
Okay.
strong, amiable. That's your strongest energy base. So that's what you'll default to the most. But you can be very aggressive, assertive, driven like the driver, or you can have a million ideas like the expressive. You've got a bunch of different things going on. And the ones that, the clients that are hurting you, that are costing you 30, 40% more, are going to be the analytic personalities, probably the analytic amiables.
Okay.
So quadrant 1 and 2. The reason quadrant 2 almost it will cost you more is because they will often come up with additional things that um, that they want you to do that weren't originally included in the original bid.
Okay. Yeah.
And your amiable will tend to go ahead and give in to them,
Okay.
but you're not happy about it. So likely your amiable is going to share that with your wife. She will be less happy than you are.
Okay.
So she's going to be really ticked because people are taking advantage of her husband. But it's really taking advantage of her and the kids because then you have to work harder.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know what to do. So she's got confusion. She's got confusion because she wants to support you, but then she can't understand why you keep letting people take advantage of you. Questions?
I guess one thing. Now, my customers, I'm not gonna ask them if they like the ball or the cube or the pyramid or the wavy line.
Probably not for another 4 to 5 weeks. In 4 to 5 weeks, you'll be in a position where you'll have enough confidence and knowledge to do that, but not for the next 4 or 5 weeks. We can show you how to identify their personality without asking them any questions. The reason that you'll ask them these questions is because it creates tremendous curiosity for them. But you got to gain some confidence. And so typically that takes 4 to 6 weeks of coaching for you to gain confidence to ask them that question. So this is how you can understand somebody's personality without asking them the question. So what you're doing
Okay.
is asking yourself, is this person more assertive or less assertive? So it's
Okay.
the horizontal line. So people who choose the pyramid and the wavy line tend to be more assertive. People who tend to choose the cube or the ball tend to be less assertive.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're not sure if somebody's more assertive or less assertive, what are they?
I don't
Typically, they're
know.
less assertive because more assertive people, typically, they're more assertive.
Yeah, you can. Okay, I get that. You can tell pretty quickly if they're more assertive.
Yeah, if they're more aggressive, more assertive, you feel it, you sense it.
Yeah.
Except for me, I'm still trying to read the Amish. Like everybody's nice. So I'm like, what? But some of them, they're more assertive, but it's underneath. And so maybe it's just because I'm English. I don't know. But, there are definitely more assertive Amish and less assertive Amish. But typically you can tell if somebody's more assertive. So if they're more assertive, they're going to be a quadrant 3 or 4. They're going to be a pyramid or a wavy line.
Okay.
So the first question is, are they more assertive or less assertive? Makes
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. The second question you're going to ask is, are they focused more on task? That's the upper ones, or people, that's the lower ones. So if they're focused more on task, they're going to be a quadrant 2 or 4. They're going to be an analytic or driver. If they're focused more on people, they're going to be a 1 or 3, an amiable or an expressive.
Okay. Okay. Now, 1 or 3, that's focused more on people, you say.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then 2 and 4 focus more on task.
Okay.
So that's a little harder to identify, but you can listen to what people are talking about. Like if you ask them how their weekend was, the amiable and the expressive will talk about the people on the weekend.
Okay.
The analytic and driver will talk about things or task.
Okay.
You can hear it in somebody's voice as well. So you can hear it in somebody's voice. If they're very warm and you kind of like them, they're probably the amiable or the expressive, the people.
Yeah.
If they're kind of cold and you don't necessarily like them, they might be the driver or the pyramid or the cube.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, based on how somebody says hello on the phone, you can tell which personality they are. So
Gotcha. Yep.
if you answer the phone and they say hello and you feel like you're talking to your mom or grandmother or like somebody you really like, somebody that you're like, man, they're the sweetest person in the world, they're probably an amiable. So they're a quadrant
Okay.
1. If they answer and it talks like they're almost like you're almost talking to a machine, like you think is this the like if it's very precise in how like their hello is almost perfect. It's probably quadrant two. It's probably the analytic.
Okay.
If they are laughing when they say hello, or it's really joyful, or they're goofing around, or it's fun, it's probably quadrant three, which is the expressive.
Okay.
And if you don't like them, it's probably a quadrant four. Like if they sound cold, if they seem like they don't care, if they could say any other word other than hello, they would. Um, they're probably the driver.
Yeah, because they're used to giving orders.
They're used to giving orders. They don't even want to talk to you. Like this, just like get on, get off. What do we need to do? Like it's on, off, up, out. They're on to something else.
And now a question here, the ones that are costing me more money, you say that's the 2 and the 4.
Typically, it's going to be no. The four actually, it could be. Typically, the four, the driver is pretty. It could be. They could be, but it's typically the two,
Okay.
the analytic. But the
Okay.
amiable could, because they can seduce you. When I use the word seduction, I'm not talking sexual. I'm talking. It's like they win you over, and you're their best friend, and so you don't want to, so they can be really sneaky clients.
Trying to get more out of you.
Yeah, yeah, but they're nice about it at least.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I got actually just thinking back, I got one like that right now.
yeah, 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 they're sneaky buggers. I've got a couple of my 10 grandkids that are amiables, and they're sneaky. They know how to get out of grandpa what they want. They're super, super nice. And grandpa, please, like, you sneaky little kids, you. The expressive, they can as well, because they're high energy. So they're strong in people, they're fun and funny. The driver tends to have a harder time doing that because they're just so direct.
Okay, yeah.
Now, they might go ahead and say, hey, I've got a better price. So they might go ahead and just be really direct with you. But typically, the driver, they can be the hardest client, but the best, easiest one too. You typically know exactly where you stand with them.
Yeah, okay.
They can actually, it's kind of deceptive. They actually, and my wife, if she was listening to this, she'd roll her eyes. but um, but she, but the driver is actually often the nicest, the most caring of of the four. They often have hearts of gold.
Okay.
They're often marshmallows underneath. Like, but they come across as being tough. And in business, I had one person that had to be like, I was negotiating, they were a vendor. I don't remember what it was, but some service. And they said, Mark, you're killing me on the price here. I've got 3 kids. You're not giving me anything for them to eat. I laughed and I said, well, I've got 7 kids. So it's either your kids eat or mine. So this is the price I need. He gave me the price I asked for. So each of the four personalities, we often attribute, ill motives to somebody else's personality, but don't understand the ill motives in our own personality.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep, I can see that.
Yeah. Marla will probably reach out to you on either tomorrow or Friday, I'm guessing. She'll get you some more information. She'll also get you information about the coffee connection. That's the first Saturday of every month in Shipshe. And so um, there's a lot of material that we cover there, and we have handouts and stuff like that on it. It's a lot of fun. And so you can, we have, husbands, business owners, they bring their wives and their kids. Like my grandkids will often come. And so it's kind of like a whole family thing. It's kind of informal, but but there's a lot of business that's talked, and there's a lot of talk about personality. So you would enjoy that, I think, if you're able to participate.
Okay.
And then if you have employees, you can invite them too. And so the more they learn about this, the better employees they'll be.
Yeah. Okay.
And then if you have other, like if you have vendors or other business owner friends, you can participate. They can, it's open to anybody. So you can invite as many people as you want to invite to participate. So people enjoy personalities a lot. Everybody. So I've traveled around the world, and everywhere I've gone, people, when I was over in Africa with my oldest son, we did a personality seminar, and I'm telling you, they loved it. The Amish absolutely love this stuff. Because it helps them to understand their spouse better. It helps them to understand their kids better. It just helps us to understand one another a lot better. And that just gives us better relationships, which is great for business and everything else.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Does this help?
Yeah. Yep. It definitely gives me something to look over here in the next week and yeah,
Cool.
see. So
Cool.
absolutely.
Excellent. So if somebody's less assertive and they're focused on people, what personality would they be?
The number one,
Yep. And if they're more assertive and focused on task, what would they be?
number four,
Nice. And if they're more assertive and focused on people, what would they be?
three,
Yep. And less assertive, focused on task, what would they be?
two.
You got it. You're a pro. You get an A+ for today. Oh, good work. Good work on this. And I'll be talking to Marla, and she'll get you over some stuff. She'll connect with you too. There might be some more reading material that you can go through. There's a lot on clear communication. So each of the four personalities kind of have their own language and how they like to be communicated to, what they listen to, what they miss, those type of things. And we might have a couple other assignments. The key in coaching is to make sure we don't give you too much or too little. Again, our goal is in 90 days is for you to say, this is the best investment I've ever made into my business or myself ever. That's our goal. To do that, we need to work hard, and we're willing to do that for sure. And so we have so much material that we can give you a lot more. And so if you think you have more bandwidth, more time, you want to learn more and faster, let Marla and I know about that, because you definitely can. We can give you more material to read and go over and study. And the more you do between coaching sessions, the more questions you'll have, the more you'll get out of the coaching. And so the thing is with me, this is where Marla and Ginger Ann and Elaine, they're uh, they're better at it than me. I'm a little bit out of control sometimes. I give clients too much information. They're like, Mark, that's way too much information. I'm like, oh, he'll be fine. So if you're ever feeling overwhelmed in a bad way, just let us know, and we can help prioritize whatever you're working on, whatever you're learning.
Okay.
All right. We'll
Good
see you,
deal.
sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Nope. That's it. So.
All right. We'll see you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. Questions?
You didn't invite Willis. I guess that's not a question. I should say, why didn't you invite Willis?
Because I'm a terrible coach?
No, I'm just trying to figure out, like, do you have a strategy that you're going
No,
by,
I
or
really don't. I have no idea what I'm doing.
okay.
Like I say that to people, and people don't believe me. But when you get into me doing coaching, you understand why Ginger Ann and Elise get me out of the coaching. Don't get Mark in. Like, because it's very dialectic. It's all over the place. It's like, I mean, for Willis, I used this here. I used, I used MCAT. And then for Clayton, I used the Google Calendar. Like, what? So much of what you guys see is teaching you how not to coach. Don't coach like I'm coaching. Questions?
Yeah, so what way are we supposed to coach then?
Well, that's what you guys got to figure out. And not that you're women. Again, I want to be very sensitive, careful about what I say about women. There's three of you on and a lot more off. And then it all spreads around all over the place. Like, I'm not saying that if I come up with structure and a checklist for you guys to follow, because you're women, you're not going to want to follow my structure. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you come up with your own standard way of doing things, then you're more likely to buy into it and follow it.
So based off what we're seeing now, these are all suggestions to add to it.
You know, it's been a long time, years since I've done coaching. Elise and Ginger Ann have done such a great job. Seriously. I mean, they're just magical. Um, and um, so we need to get into something. You can't, and so,
Because
back,
we should still have a standard, right?
or we should. Yeah, you can't have coach like I do. It's not good. It's just not healthy. Some of my secrets to being able to pull it off is I try to find one thing that means the most to the individual. And I'm always giving them one thing and always then getting, like when I did TV in Atlanta, they said always sell the next segment. What that means is when you're finished with one, you're always telling them this is what we're doing in the future. This is what we're setting, so typically for the first 3 months, it's so easy to coach people. There's so much, like, it's just so easy to coach them. It's like kids. And then all of a sudden they become like teenagers and they get a little poosty and have an attitude. And what have you done lately for me? So what we might do is, I didn't have this years ago, but we might go ahead and have this here. We might enhance this for Action Vision and say, what are the three assignments? So one of the things I'm really good at, I'm sure you all saw this, is I can be insanely charming.
Uh-huh.
No, we saw that, Mark. Yeah, totally. And so I can be insanely charming until I'm not. I think I have control over that. And so, um, like he would have had a better customer experience if he would have if he'd have had this all printed out and I didn't have to take the extra time, draw a line left, right, up, down. Because I'm so familiar with this, I can do that. But that's not the best experience that he could have had. If I would have been better prepared he would have had a better experience. He doesn't know that. I do. And so I've got to get better. So I know I'm not giving him the best.
But would he have internalized it as well as he did?
Maybe not. Thanks for bailing me out. Now I feel great about myself. I don't need to get better. I am awesome.
Well, it's just surprising how fast he like latched onto that and understood it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And I might have just been lucky.
Okay.
So I might have just been fortunate, And so the next person might get frustrated. Like, Jake, he might get really frustrated.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I was fortunate on this client, but the next one I might not be. And so the best of the world is to have some interaction. So circle number 1 quadrant, circle number 2. And I'm developing new. I never go ahead and do it this way. I always in the past, every single time for 30 years, I'd always go analytic, driver, expressive, amiable. Always. Always clockwise, always start at the upper left and go to the lower right or go lower left. So why did I switch it this time? Because I've been moving more into frequencies, and the frequency is the amiable, the analytic, the expressive, and the driver. It seems a little bit more complex. And so you'd think that wouldn't be good, but that might be actually in education, that might be better because they might have to pay attention. So there's a story of the instant cake mix. So this comes actually from college, I think. I don't know where it came from. It might have been the Wall Street Journal, might have been in college. I don't remember. But they did millions of dollars. I don't know whoever made the instant cake mix. You all are familiar with instant cake mix, right?
Yep.
Yep. So they did research and they spent millions of dollars developing instant cake mix. And the original instant cake mix, all you needed to do was add water.
Okay.
And it wasn't selling. It didn't work.
Why?
So they researched that, and the consumer's perspective was that you couldn't have good tasting, cake if you just added water or milk or whatever it is. You add something liquid. And so what they did is they reformulated it where you had to add water or milk or whatever and an egg.
Well, it's got 3 ingredients. It's got water, egg, and oil.
So my understanding is the original one is all you needed was water. You didn't need anything
Gotcha.
else. But the
I didn't know
consumer,
that.
in the consumer's mind, it couldn't taste good. So what they did is they reformulated it where you needed to add an egg, but they have the technology out there where you don't need an egg or oil, and it'll taste just as good. But
Interesting.
yeah, but the consumer doesn't think it's going to do that. So what they did is they actually made it harder, and it took off like crazy. I'm not saying that, men don't make cake mixes, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the women wanted to put more work into it so they felt better about doing it rather than creating it from scratch. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is the consumer can be very fickle. It can be
Right.
it can be opposite, like Mel with Bluegate. He talked about the early years where it wasn't working, and they charged, I don't know, $10 or something to get in, and they couldn't get people in. They even gave away tickets and they couldn't give people in. So one day Mel went ahead and thought, and they actually teach this in college too, which is pretty interesting. So college does have some benefit from it. But Mel said what he did is he came up with the idea that we're not charging enough. So he bumped it up to $30. And when they bumped it up, they doubled or tripled the price. Then all of a sudden, they filled all the places, all the spaces. So the consumer's perception is that it's not enough value. So a lot of time businesses lower their price and their sales go down and they don't understand it. Whereas if they raise their price, then sales would go up. So there's a whole bunch of those little mysteries. And Mel, I'm pretty sure, didn't read that in a book. Pretty sure he didn't go to college. I know he didn't go to college for it. So he figured that out on his own. He's like, how do you go ahead and do that? Like, how is that working? Why is it not working? So I don't know, ideally what we would do is we would probably build something here and put notes, because then you can put it here and you can say, we could say Action Vision, and we could say, we could put something here, and it could be, monthly coaching. And then what we can do is we could go ahead and filter. We could create views, and it could bring up all their monthly coaching. And all it would do is show up monthly coaching here. So you would know exactly what the previous coach did. You wouldn't lose track. I mean, imagine having 10, 15, 20 Action Vision clients.
Right.
How it kind of all runs together.
Yep.
And so if I don't nail something today, I've got to get something. So my mistake last week is that I didn't do it fast enough. Am I going to make the same mistake? Am I going to make the same mistake this week?
No.
Why do you say that? And why Marla and Mary Jo, are you neither of you participating?
I am just taking in everything that is being said and making notes.
I'd love to see your notes on this session. Mark laughed. Mark he talked about women. Was he serious about, like, I can't figure his perspective out about women. Like, is he like most men are? Is he different? Like, where is he coming from? Marla, how about you?
I don't know. I'm probably still trying to wake up.
Really?
Mark's just being traumatized.
Right? Thank you. Thank you for validating my trauma. Okay, now I lost. Oh, so what I might do is I might go ahead and make the mistake twice.
Why would you do that?
So you all think I'm a human being and I'm not a machine.
So you're more like a woman.
Right? Wow. Wow. I can't believe you said that about women. Like, I'll never forget this time. Like Elaine said, women make all kinds of mistakes.
Just being honest.
Just being honest. So it's interesting when your mind gets to a certain level and you track, like if any of you ever track all your mistakes in a year, man, that's
I wouldn't,
that. What's that?
I wouldn't be able to keep up.
That would just be very discouraging.
No, it's not. I'm not saying to start today, but maybe start in January 1st. It's crazy. It was one of the most fun years I ever had, because Rosanna would come to me and she'd say, this is a mistake. And I'm like, are you sure? I had a lot more fun that year than she did. And there were 7 mistakes. In spite of the 7 mistakes, I had a lot of fun. So I don't know if I will make the same mistake again. I mean, why would I? Am I giving like is Marla just teasing me? Like this is her client. Like, is she going to allow me to make a mistake with her client again? So I might go ahead and just make the mistake so Marla doesn't like rely on me. Like Mark will just take care of things. So I might, like, is it my responsibility to go ahead and do this, or is it Marla's?
Makes sense.
It's a little weird. Anything else, ladies, that any of you have?
Not on this part, no.
Okay, so this here, you know, do we in the certification, in the Action Vision certification, do we go ahead and, do we go ahead and in here in 4 or in 3, and you go down into here, into Action Vision servicing. So here's the first coaching session. First month coaching session. Then there's weekly, coaching sessions. Do we put these recordings in here? So what's the advantage of, like, what's the reason for putting these recordings in here? What's the pros of doing that?
Help the next people.
Yep. What's the cons?
Could also cripple them
How?
by basing their coaching on that and not figuring out their own.
Well, we don't want people figuring out their own. Like once they're skilled, Pablo Picasso, I think, a famous artist, he went ahead and said something about, he had a famous saying, it's really cool. I love it. Like, it's essentially don't be creative until you become a master. So we don't want any of you coming up with your own way of coaching until you've mastered the standard way. So there is one standard Mark always has, and that is, what would you like to accomplish today? You did notice in both of them where he said the same thing, like, are you looking forward to it as much as I am?
Yes.
And so is that true, or am I just charming? Is that sincere?
I believe so.
Absolutely. Like, I'm looking forward to, for many reasons. And so there's 2 standards there, but I won't do it every time because then it gets old. And so we want to give new coaches, here's the standard. You have to do this, use a checklist. Every time you go through, you need to do this. This is the standard of how you do it. Once you've learned how to do the standard, then you can go ahead and develop your own style. But your own style doesn't wipe out the standard. The standard is the standard because there always has to be. So somebody can slide in at any given moment and pick up anybody else's clients. And they're like, this is an amazing experience. One of the standards is make it fun. It's the warm belly rub. Like, laugh a lot, have a lot of fun in what you're doing, like joke around with them. And so, when we say flirt, that's kind of weird. A man, I don't flirt with a man. I just make it fun for him. With a woman, if I was coaching a woman, that might be flirting. So I might go ahead. I want to make it fun for her. I want to make it fun for him. I want to make it fun for them. If it's a husband and wife team, I want to make them to where they're like, Mark's really, the guy's hilarious. Like he's just funny. Why? Because if I'm funny, I can go ahead and speak more truth. I can be more direct. They're going to more likely be responsive to what I'm saying and doing. I can give them more value. So think about if you were investing the amount of money they're investing, what kind of an experience would you want to have? So I don't know if
Definitely a good.
sorry, go ahead.
I just said definitely a good one.
Yeah, well, beyond good, like great, like amazing, like eye popping, like holy cow. And so, but I'm also aware that I'm putting more pressure on the team when I say in 90 days I want this. So I'm putting tons of pressure on myself, on each of you, and the whole Action Vision team. In addition to that, I'm also setting up when I create that kind of an experience, what's going to happen?
They're going to make a connection with you.
Yeah. And we got to make sure it's not with me, it's with us. It's with us.
Okay.
It's so we need to make the connection with us. What else is going to happen? Because we're intentional about making it happen. They're going to give us referrals. See, the challenge that people in servicing have is they're not thinking about sales, they're thinking about servicing. I'm thinking about sales because I know that I have got to go ahead and continue to make sales. If I'm doing servicing, I still have to sell. And so box seven here is asking for referrals right here. So I've asked you all to go through this. I think I'm asking for referrals. But what I'm doing is I'm setting it up like people aren't very curious. Like when I tell the story of Tom Ninnis and how I was ripping his head off. And Rosanna walked by and said, who, late, in the evening when I came home, she said, who, you were ripping some, yeah, that was Tom Ninnis. You were like yelling at him. I don't know. That's a bit dramatic. Maybe not. I mean, I'm intense. And she's like, you can't do that. Isn't he the one that referred us $260,000 in business in the last 15 months? And I said, no, honey, that's why he's referring business is because I rip his head off. And then she just like shook her head and rolled her eyes and says, like, why do people, I don't know why people pay you money. And I'm like, right? You and the kids get this for free. Other people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. So what I'm doing is turning my driver gift that God's given me into an economic engine that supported our family for over 30 years. It's a miracle. It really is.
Mhm.
It really is a miracle. And so, if people really internalize that story, one thing they'd come away with is they'd be like, Mark, how'd you get somebody to refer $260,000? That's a boatload of business. Like I want every one of my clients to refer 260,000 too. Like, what's your secrets? But nobody ever asked me that.
I'm more thinking like with the way with the intensity I've seen you with some of the clients, and if this was at all close to it, who did he talk to that was willing to have that intensity, or how did he go about it to bring you those referrals?
So what it is it's like what you like Tim Miller Luke's brother, where he said, I have a really good manager at the RV factory. He's a great manager. He reminds me of you, Mark. Really? That doesn't happen very. Why? Because he'll rip somebody's head off and turn and then be super nice to the next person. And Elaine, she was on that call. I'll never forget it. She started giggling. She says, my kids hate when I do that. So drivers have that ability to go ahead and do that more than others. They just have a natural ability. Elaine has a natural ability. And not only does she's conscious of it, she's aware of it. And so what I'm doing though in the 90-day expectation, I'm expecting us to, as a team, to deliver in a way that we've never delivered in 33 years. And we can, not because of Mark, it's because of each of you. See, servicing as a team is infinitely more powerful than servicing individually. But when we service far beyond they would ever expect being serviced, we're going to get referrals. They are going to refer a lot of business. And so, Marla, I know she loves making cold calls like crazy and she'd never want to give that up. I get that. She can take these 2 clients and she can turn them into 5 or 10 more clients. She can take those 5 or 10 and turn those into another 5 or 10 more clients. She can do that really fast. And so I'm setting us up for success. I'm setting us up to deliver. I'm setting us up where I want each one of you to have the same passion that I have to service the clients. It's not about the money. It's not about the referrals. But when we go ahead and do a spectacular job over and above what anything they've invested into, we're expecting referrals. We're going to get them. Why? Because it's in their best interest. And that's where understanding this here on 10, understanding this and understanding, this, the referral machine and this here and what this is, when you guys understand this and internalize this, it'll absolutely be mind numbing. And if one of you get Ben to go ahead and to watch this one here, I don't know where Ben's going to be better, honestly. Is he going to be better in sales? He might be. That guy's a charmer. Me, I've had to study him. I've had to study, Rosanna. I've had to study Ginger Ann and Jonathan and Melissa and Katrina and Angela and Tim. I've studied my wife and I've studied my 7 kids. Now I get to study my 10 grandkids. Ooh, and I learn a lot from them. And so I don't know if Ben would do better in sales or if he'd do better in coaching. That guy's charming. That guy can move people in nobody's business. Or maybe he does both. I don't know. And there's a lot of people out there like Ben. There's a lot of people in the factory that want an opportunity. I can't even believe I get paid to do this. Like, really? Like, this is so much fun. You're changing people's lives and they think you're smart and they think you're funny and they think you're nice. They think you're kind, they think all these things. And it's like, I get paid to do this a lot. And that's good for them because I'm going to make them a lot of money. So hopefully this has been helpful. You guys have an amazing day. Bye-bye.